The Houston Rockets have really struggled to begin the season. After today's loss to the Detroit Pistons, Houston have now dropped 9 straight matches and are sitting tied last in the entire NBA with an abysmal 1-10 record. However, it's easy to look at a record and stats and say a team is terrible. As a diehard Rockets fan, I've of course taken the liberty to watch every single one of their games so far this season. And while there are certainly a lot of negatives with this team and plenty of stuff to figure out, I also think there's many positives that give me hope as a Rockets fan that this rebuilding era won't last too long. So, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about my Houston Rockets, what I've liked so far this season, what's frustrated me, and overall, what I think the rest of the season is going to look like in H-Town. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe. For more NBA content like this, I'm trying to reach 18,000 subscribers by December, so all support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk about the Houston Rockets. Let's talk about the Houston Rockets season so far first. To be fair to the Rockets, the first 10 games of their season were extremely difficult. I even tweeted about how we may struggle to win more than one game through our first 10 matches, which did turn out to be correct. Houston has played multiple contenders early on, including Phoenix, Dallas, Golden State, Denver, the Lakers twice, and the Utah Jazz. And the majority of those games were on the road. For such a young team, that's a lot of adversity, so I don't think it's shocking to see them come out of those 10 games with not much to show for it. However, with that being said, I think the Rockets have showed a lot of flashes during this opening stretch of the season and are starting to improve. So here are some positives that I've found while watching the Rockets early on. The first positive with this team would definitely have to be their competitiveness. Though the Rockets have barely won any games, they've been able to stay in touch with the contenders in I'd say at least 75%, maybe 50% of the games so far. The Rockets have tended to have very strong first halves, which have pushed contenders to the edge when they're playing at their best. There's a lot of examples to show this too. The game against Denver really should have been a win for Houston. They were simply exceptional in that match and couldn't have really played any better, so it was pretty shattering to see them lose it. But even in the games against Phoenix, Dallas, and the Lakers, the Rockets hung with them for at least 3/4 of the match before falling behind late, which resulted in many losses under 10 points. Had a couple more shots gone our way, or had some better lineups run, or started the second half in a better fashion, it's probable that the Rockets win some of those games, and their record looks a lot more like 4-6 or 3-7 rather than 1-9, which certainly looks a lot better on paper for a rebuilding side. There's been many positives to take away from how our young guys are playing as well. While Jalen Green is still adjusting, he's improving every game, and his shooting looks to be a part of his game that will make him lethal in the NBA. His ability to finish around the basket has also been superb, and he's one of the most fun players to watch in my opinion. Give him some time to develop his understanding of what quality shots are, and he'll start to prove that he's a future star in the league. The other star rookie for the Rockets has been Sengun, whose effort is beyond amazing. He's one of my favorite players on the roster currently. Sengun never backs down from a play, always contesting shots and going for blocks, and he even goes at stronger big men in the post offensively. Sure, he could be more efficient, maybe he could stay out of foul trouble a bit more, but the energy he brings is fantastic, and it's a promising sign for what he can develop into in his career. Kevin Porter Jr. hasn't broken out to the degree as expected, but I definitely enjoy him running the offense for us. He has great court awareness and his playmaking is much improved from previous seasons. In the pick and roll, he's at his deadliest, and it's been good to see Silas utilizing that a lot more when he's on the court. As for more of the veteran/older players, Eric Gordon has surprisingly been solid and a spark off the bench this season. I wasn't a fan of Gordon's minutes at all last season, but this season, whenever Houston seemed to be struggling to get the ball rolling offensively, Gordon always seems to be able to step up on the floor and get the Rockets a much needed bucket. Christian Wood has also been really good. I've seen a lot of hate by Rockets fans on C. Wood, which I don't really understand. because I think he's probably been our best player by quite a stretch to date. Excluding one game where Wood struggled to score the ball, he's been posting an efficient 18 and 12 per night. If he can improve his free throw shooting and be a bit more assertive with his possessions, he's no doubt capable of breaking out into an all-star type player, which would certainly lead to more Rocket success. I'll quickly mention Jae'Sean Tate too, who has continued his form into his sophomore season. His energy and physicality are contagious, and he brings a lot of heart onto the floor. He's becoming the engine to the Rockets team, especially defensively. In the end though, those are pretty much all the positives I can think of right now with Houston. There's probably a couple more minor ones. I think our offense overall has been solid in some games too. It's really the factor that makes us as competitive as we have been lately. But I think for now, the Rockets' competitiveness early on overall, even against some top tier teams, and the impressive play from guys like Jalen Green, Şengün, Wood, KPJ, Eric Gordon, and Jae'Sean Tate are the real positives for this team to begin the season. Unfortunately, there's also been a lot of negatives with the Rockets. Maybe I was biased heading into the season and glossed over some of the apparent issues with this team, and to be fair, the strength of the schedule early on probably hasn't helped the Rockets play, but I do think Houston can be playing a lot better than they have. The first big issue so far with this team has been turnovers. The Rockets give up way too many turnovers per game, and it forces them to play catch up against teams. The Rockets in some games are giving up over 20 turnovers per night, and for the season average 19.8, which just sucks to watch because these are countless empty possessions that are being wasted. Houston have also been one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the league as well. I mean, just look at tonight. The Rockets fell to Detroit but missed over 12 free throws. That's just not good. It's really something the Rockets need to work on because it's costing them wins. To be fair, it is good that we get to the line as often as we do. I don't mind the aggressive nature of our team, but we have to make those trips to the line count. Unfortunately right now, we just haven't been able to convert at the stripe well. And again, it's negatively impacting the Rockets' play and ability to win games, like today. Overall here, Houston have been shooting quite well from the field on the season actually, at least for the most part, but they let teams stay in the game and eventually beat them because of their turnovers and poor free throw shooting. Another big problem with the Rockets this season though, so far, and probably the biggest problem in my opinion, has to be the offensive system. Yes, while I did say before that our offense is probably one of our biggest strengths and has kept us in games this season against top tier teams, the problem is it can be so much better. This roster has the tools to be a top 15 offense in the league right now. It's just the way we utilize those tools that's not working and is holding us back. It's resulting in inconsistent and at times a very ineffective offense. It can be extremely stagnant, which I hate to be honest, because with guys like KPJ, Jalen Green, Eric Gordon, etc., who are all very athletic athletes, cutting off the ball and having off-ball movement is going to be the best way for them to get good looks and buckets. Just having Jalen Green sit in the corner while KPJ or Gordon ISO at the top of the key just doesn't make much sense to me. The team is still developing obviously and getting used to each other, so I'm okay with our offense being a little bit rough around the edges. It'll take some time to improve and be a well-oiled machine. But at the same time, the Rockets should still be a lot better attacking than what they have been. Some of the things Silas does just holds these guys back from meeting their full potential. Now, I don't want to see Silas fired at all. Personally, I think he's a good coach for this young team, but running a lineup of Augustine, Eric Gordon, Şengün, Brooks, and Tate against the Phoenix Suns, who still had Booker on the floor at the time, I don't know, I'm just not a fan of those lineups. There's no offense there, and barely any defense. To fix this, there needs to be more movement. Needs to be a bigger focus on getting guys like Jalen Green, KPJ, and Christian Wood in particular going. Those are the three guys we're building around. So resting Green for 8 to 10 minutes at a time just doesn't make sense. We've seen Jalen Green absolutely ball out when he has a hot start, like when he dropped 30 on the Celtics or 24 the other day. Those big performances stemmed from a quick start offensively for him, so I don't really know why we don't involve him in the offense as much as possible, especially considering he's our number 2 pick with star potential. And again, when I say involve him in the offense, I don't mean having him run ISOs that result in a difficult late shot clock heave, which he's been taking too many of to begin this season. I mean getting Green to run off screens on cuts to the basket, allow him to get in transition and get a step on the defender. That is when Jalen and Houston overall are at their best, so we need more possessions like that. Overall offensively for the Rockets, I think we run too many ISO plays, let guys go on an island too frequently. Like, as much as I love Armani Brooks' minutes, I've seen him go one-on-one with a defender way too many times. So please, if someone from the coaching staff at Houston is for whatever reason watching this video, cut out the ineffective ISOs and random step back threes early in the shot clock, and instead run some plays that get our guys cutting and moving downhill. That to me is just going to be way more effective. With that said, these are some things I'd like to see from the Rockets and their players moving forward. As I've kind of talked about a lot now, but I'll briefly mention again, we need more off-ball movement. I also want to see guys trying to force it in the paint a lot less. Yes, I think it's a great idea to get in the paint, especially with a guy like Christian Wood on the team, but I see a lot of our possessions in that part of the court getting wasted because it gets too crammed inside and results in a turnover because we don't know what to do once we're in there. There's the right intention, but time and time again in the paint, Houston loses the ball because they just panic when they get inside there and either throw up a bad shot or just pass it to the opposition. I think the rotations are poor as well early on. Like, as I said, there's no need for KPJ, Wood and Jalen to all be sitting on the bench at once. I understand Silas is still figuring it out, and I really don't envy his situation at all, because this is tough to do with such a young and inexperienced team. But me being honest, the rotations plain and simple need to improve. Hopefully over time they will, and I expect them to, because I have a lot of trust in Silas. Again, I really like his coaching. Right now, they are just holding us back a bit. But yeah, overall, those are my thoughts on the Houston Rockets so far this season, looking at the positives I've seen and the negatives. My apologies if this all seems a bit scrambled. I just kind of felt like ranting about Houston, as I haven't been able to do it for some time, and to be honest, the start of this season has been pretty frustrating for me to watch. I've watched all the Rockets games so far this season, and I really just wanted to express my thoughts on them and how they've played this season as a fan. It seems like at this point, Houston's probably going to be a top lottery pick again, which I don't mind, but again, it sucks because I was hoping for some solid play. But I think if we can cut down the turnovers and improve our free throw shooting at the very least, we can start winning a lot more games, especially against the lower tier teams. We'll have to wait and see what happens though. But right now, I've liked what I've seen so far with the Rockets, but there's also been a lot that's disappointed me, so it's why I'm a bit frustrated with the Rockets currently. But that will conclude the video. What do you guys think of this? How well do you think the Rockets will play in the remaining 70 games in the season? Be sure to let me know all your thoughts on the Rockets down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I am out. Peace.